Okay, in just a moment, we're going to see a video of a NGK spark plug in the Blueprint Engine's HP9009 aluminum cylinder head. So I'm also going to discuss the two spark plugs that Blueprint Engines recommends. One is an NGK, one is a Champion. I'm also going to show header clearance to the JBA mid-length header. And the two spark plugs that Blueprint recommends have different heat ranges. We'll discuss that, but I'm not going to debate the heat range for your particular application. And I'm not going to get into resistor versus non-resistor. There's other sources for that. You guys don't need to hear that from me. Okay, all I'm showing here is this is right off the Blueprint Engine's website. I won't go through this. All I'm showing is this is the information right off the website, and there is no spark plug information. So I've got links in the intro to all this, so you can go check out if you like. But now let's get into the video portion and see how this stuff looks.
Okay, so what we're going to do here today is we're going to look at my 393 Ford Stroker using the HP9009 Blueprint Engines cylinder head. You know, this cylinder head used to be a lot more economical, but due to inflation, they have skyrocketed. They're almost $900 a piece. When I bought this head, I swear to God, it was only 550 bucks. And that was only a couple years ago. So we're here to look at the spark plug. So what spark plug does Blueprint Engines recommend? Actually, they do not have anything on their website. You have to contact tech support. So if you look at the Summit Racing questions, you'll see Blueprint answer to the spark plug question of a 14 millimeter thread spark plug with a 3/4 inch reach. We're going to flip this around and we're going to see how that spark plug looks in there. So I'm using the NGK. So we'll just look at what that looks like in the combustion chamber, just for curiosity. Now, there it is. So this video is more for curiosity. It's not to say that's good, bad. I think it's completely fine. But next portion of the video, what we're going to do is we're going to put this head on the engine, and we're going to install a JBA shorty header, 1 5/8, and we're going to see how the spark plug to header clearance looks. So more to follow. Okay, this portion of the video shows the JBA shorty header installed. It's a mid-length header, excuse me. You can see the part number there. This is a 1 5/8 primary tube header, so did not expect spark plug clearance to be an issue, but thought I'd throw a quick video together to show you that it isn't. I mean, that's just old school clearance. Not untypical for a 1 5/8 primary tube. I think some of the 1 3/4 primary tube probably have a little bit more problems. No need for a shorty plug at all. I was going to put a spark plug wire on there, but we all know that's going to be completely acceptable. Good looking header, this JBA mid-length. I think 1 3/4 primary tube headers on small block Fords, even strokers that are mild street strip engines, are really overrated and super expensive. I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to be satisfied with it. Okay, take care and talk soon.
Okay, you guys just saw the header clearance spark plug video. There were no problems here. Let's give a few details on this JBA header, because some people are going to be curious. Why did I select this for my '69 Mustang? Well, I thought about it a long time, and other people that have thought about headers for '69 and '70 Mustangs inevitably fall into the I've got to have a 1 3/4 primary tube header. Yeah, I did it first too, but they are very expensive. They are extreme pain to get fit in the chassis, and if you've seen some of the Engine Masters where they test 1 3/4 versus 1 5/8 on engines as high as 500 horsepower, there is not enough difference for me around 400 or 425 horsepower to deal with that 1 3/4 primary tube. I'm not defending that. I'm just saying that's the reason I made those decisions. So if you've got yourself around a 425 horsepower 6970 mild street strip engine, you really should consider a 1 5/8 primary tube and avoid the pain in the butt syndrome with the 1 3/4. So here's some details. This mid-length JBA header works with an AOD. I'm going to be using that. It also works with the Borgeson steering box, which more and more Mustang guys are using, and they should. It's a modern ball and socket flange, and it's got this cool mid pipe, this H pipe. I'm also going to be using this too. Anyway, just thought I'd add this on to the end of the clearance video. Hope it helps. See you soon. Okay, this portion of the video talks about the 2 spark plugs that Blueprint Engines recommends for their cylinder head. These are not, as I mentioned, on the Blueprint Engines website. You data mine these from the Q&A from the Summit Racing website. So I've seen 2, and one is the Champion 792. The other one's the NGK 7938. So I'll talk about some differences between the 2. There's a difference in heat range, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. Due to difference in applications, I am not going to get into recommending a heat range for your specific application. There's 1,000 YouTube videos on that. You guys don't need me for that. This is just discussing the 2 spark plugs that Blueprint says is available for their head. So a couple notes here. The NGK's Resist Champion is not Champions made here. The NGK is made China. I used to think they were made in Japan, but I may be misremembering. The NGK is more towards the hot, Champion's more towards the cold, so let's look at that. Okay, so this is the NGK heat range. NGK heat range is pretty simple. You know, their 5s are hotter, their 6s are in the middle, and their 7s are colder. So this particular spark plug is a little towards the hotter side. There's an explanation which you can read. I won't get into insulator length and heat range. That's been well described for a half century, so I'm not going to try to show off about that. I will say that they do have a caution about heat ranges here, which I do agree with. If you really don't know, it is better to go on the cold side of the plug. You might get some fouling, which you can detect. Now, they warn here about engine damage. What kind of engine damage can you get from too hot a spark plug? Well, what happens is the plug tip can overheat and it can glow, and you get pre-ignition with detonation, or the plug insulator tip can physically break off into the combustion chamber. I've not seen that, but I have heard of that from my racing friends. So just a word of caution there. Okay, so here's the Champion heat range. As I mentioned, they're on the colder side. And so I'm going to go with the NGKs just to start out with and see how that slightly hotter plug runs. And maybe at some point I'll have another video that discusses how well that plug worked. But anyway, hope the information is useful to you to some degree, and take care.
Just a quick addendum. I thought I'd make a point that a couple friends of mine have had where they've assembled the engine on the stand and they installed the spark plugs because it's easy to do. The engine's on the stand, just put them in there. Then they put the engine in the chassis and then they install the headers. Inevitably what happens is the header flange will bang one or more of the spark plug insulators and crack it. It's very hard to install headers without banging spark plugs. Then you've got this weird ignition issue. Now, a lot of people will discover that by running the engine in total darkness, and they'll see like these corona arcs around the cracked spark plug insulator, and I think most people connect the dots and go, you know, I probably banged that with the header flange. But anyway, just a tip, if you can avoid it, put the spark plugs in when you've got your brand new engine in the chassis after the headers are installed, and you'll avoid cracked spark plug insulators. Okay, talk soon.